Hi everyone, this is Grandmaster Ben Feingold. My YouTube page is back. Um, I haven't made a video in about 2 years, and I'm going to try to make daily videos now if I can ever figure out how the software works. This is actually my third attempt at making this video. Uh, well, trial and error. Okay, so um, my wife Karen and I are starting a new chess center here in Atlanta in September of 2017. You can visit our website, www.atlchessclub.com, and consider a donation so we can have the best chess center in the South. And, well, if you like my videos, then you could consider a donation for that reason. I have two reasons. So this is sort of a test video. We're going to get more in depth in the future, but I'm just trying to post this, and this is taking a while. Okay, so I guess the truth hurts. This is the opera game, which I've lectured on many times before, between Paul Morphy, one of my favorite players of all time, if not my favorite player ever. And he's white against two players, the Count and the Duke. They're not really strong chess players, but they play okay. This game started in the Philidor defense, which isn't really common now. As is pointed out on the chessboard, knight c6 and knight f6 are the most common moves. Knight f6 being the Petrov defense or the Russian defense. Okay, but d6 is okay, defending the pawn on e5, d4. And nowadays, there's three moves that black plays. Knight d7, defending his pawn. E takes d4, and knight f6, counterattacking the pawn on e4. None of these moves is considered to give black equality, so at the super grandmaster level, you're not going to see this position very often. Okay, the players with black chose a fourth move, bishop to g4, which attempts to pin the knight on f3, although it doesn't really do a great job. D takes e5. Now, in this position, unfortunately, this pin doesn't work. So if we just recapture, instead of white blundering his queen into mate, which is funny for the audience, queen takes d1 mate, instead, white would trade queens first with queen takes d8 check and knight takes e5. Black loses a pawn and has no compensation. In fact, I would say black is worse. So you can't really take back on e5 here. That's why bishop g4 is not considered a great move. Now, I had this position about 15 years ago, and my opponent played knight d7. He played the opening very quickly. This was a pawn sacrifice that he sort of liked with black, although I can't really say black has a lot of compensation. White is behind in development, but the next few moves, white's going to develop his minor pieces in castle and not really have any issue with that. And, well, I had this position once with white, and I won without too much difficulty. Okay, so instead, the players with black decided to keep material equality. They took the knight on f3, which was defending the e5 pawn. And although material is equal, after the move bishop c4, white's threatening checkmate. White has two pieces out to 0. White has the two bishops. This isn't really a position a grandmaster wants with black. Here, black made the losing move. The only move to continue the game is queen e7, which defends the pawn on f7. So then black would just be much worse. Instead, black played knight f6. And now pause your video, if you haven't seen this before, and try to find the winning move for white, which well, white gets to attack two things at once, and black can't defend them both. Okay, hopefully you found the winning move. Queen to b3, attacking f7 and b7. So there's no defense to both. I actually had this position in a simultaneous exhibition many years ago. My opponent didn't see f7 was attacked, so he played b6, and the game ended quickly. And if the kids that I'm teaching are inexperienced enough, I tell them that I won in 2 moves, and it took Morphy 9 more moves to win, so I'm better than Morphy. And some of them believe me. Okay, all joking aside, b6 is not a good move. Instead, after the move queen b3, black played queen e7, which looks like it defends the f7 pawn and does not defend the b7 pawn. which is actually true. And it looks like after queen takes b7, white just wins the rook in the corner. So once again, pause your video and try to find the only move for black that would enable him to save his rook in the corner. Hopefully you found the move queen b4 check, forking the king and queen, and white's forced to trade queens. White should win this endgame because white has an extra pawn and black has two isolated pawns. It's a very nice endgame for white. Although normally we don't show brilliancies when somebody wins a pawn up endgame. So instead of queen takes b7, instead of queen takes b7, which white obviously saw, white played a developing move, knight to c3. He had a stronger move available, which he probably didn't see, and that was bishop takes f7 check. And what this does is it shows that the black queen is overworked. His queen is defending the pawn on f7, obviously, but it's also needed to defend the b4 square. That way, after queen takes b7, we can play queen b4 check. Black is forced to take, and after queen takes b7, black no longer has the move queen b4 check, and this would give white a winning position since there's not really a good way to defend the rook on a8. So bishop takes f7 would have been a nice tactic. Instead, Morphy continued developing with knight c3. Now he's really threatening the pawn on b7, so black played c6. And this defends the pawn on b7. It's a very nice defensive move because the pawn on c6 controls these white squares, which are no longer available for white's pieces, which obviously would not be the case if black had played the move b6. Now the white squares are quite weak. Okay, so after c6, very strong move, white played bishop g5, and white has a monster advantage because he has all of his pieces developed, he's ready to castle on either wing, and, well, I can't say the same for black. Black is not ready to castle, black's bishop on f8 is blocked, and his knight on f6 is pinned, so just a terrible position for black. Black made a further mistake by playing the move b5. This moves a pawn on the side, but doesn't develop any of black's pieces or attempt to castle later. If white retreated his bishop, then b5 probably wouldn't be so bad. So Morphy punished his opponent by sacrificing his knight. And this sacrifice really opens up the avenues to black's king. After knight bd7, Morphy made a further strong move. Seeing that both knights were pinned, he put additional pressure on the knight on d7 by castling. And now it's very difficult for black to defend against all these attacks and pins. If he castles queenside to defend his knight, that would simply allow checkmate in two moves. Bishop a6 check and queen b7 mate. So instead of losing quickly, black played the only other move to defend his knight, rook to d8. And this is a very nice position. This is the second most exciting move of the game. White wants to activate his rook on h1, sort of the only piece white has that doesn't do anything. And he did so as quickly as possible. Probably if I was playing the game and I didn't know this game, I would double my rooks, rook d2 and rook d1, something slow. But Morphy played rook takes d7, and now the white rook has easy access to d1. Unfortunately, black can't take with the queen, which loses his queen, or the knight, which loses his queen to the other bishop. So he took with the rook, and rook d1, once again attacking the pin piece on d7. So here, black is getting pretty close to checkmated since his bishop and rook aren't really helping with the defense. In fact, if black didn't have his bishop on f8, he could at least castle and not get mated. So there's two ways that black can try to trade queens here, which would ease the defense. He could play queen b4, and white has a very nice checkmate here. Bishop takes f6, queen takes b3. It looks like black was successful in trading queens. Unfortunately, white doesn't recapture. White plays bishop takes d7 mate. So queen b4 is insufficient. Instead, black played queen e6, which also doesn't work. If white trades queens, he should win the endgame, since he's going to win the rook on d7. But instead, Morphy gave checkmate. He played bishop takes d7 check, knight takes d7. Once again, pause your video and try to find the very famous two-move checkmate, which many of you have seen before. White checkmates in 2 moves. Hopefully you saw it. Queen b8 check. Black only has 1 legal move to take the queen. And now because the knight on d7 is no longer on d7, we have the move rook d8 mate. And I highlighted all of Black's pieces because they're all in the original squares. And as I like to say in my videos, he's ready for the next game. Well, this was a very exciting game. White got all of his pieces out. White castled. White attacked Black's king. And of the 5 pieces that Black has remaining, only 1 of them is out. The other 4 on the original squares. Black didn't castle. And that's why Morphy was such a great player. He used all of his pieces in the attack. Well, this was the famous opera game. So I hope you like my channel now that it's back. Subscribe, like my videos, give comments on the website, www.atlchessclub.com, and please consider a donation if you like my videos or if you want my chess center to be successful. Bye, everyone.